You're listening to the REI Marketing Nerds Podcast, the leading resource for real estate investors who want to dominate their market online. Dan Barrett is the founder of AdWords Nerds, a high-tech digital agency focusing exclusively on helping real estate investors like you get more leads and deals online, outsmart your competition, and live a freer, more awesome life. And now, your host, Dan Barrett.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's REI Marketing Nerds podcast. As always, this is Daniel Barrett here from AdWordsNerds.com. How are you? Hope you are having an awesome week. It is transitioning into beautiful fall weather here in New England. People are walking around, sipping pumpkin spice lattes. The leaves are changing. It's hoodie weather. Basically the best time of the year. And to kick things off really properly, we are getting into a really awesome conversation with this week with Robert Nickell from Rocketstation. This is Rocketstation.com. If you don't know Rocketstation, they are this really interesting company that helps real estate investors to design processes and systems and then helps them hire a VA to fulfill on that process. Now, the reason that I'm having Robert on the show, just in the interest of full transparency, I met him at a mastermind. We really clicked. We hit it off. We have a lot of very similar views on things. And I decided to hire his company to help me put a system in place for my business, hire a VA to bring them in and help us serve our clients better. And I have to say, I've had a really fantastic experience with them. I thought the whole process, just from front to back, was great. Everyone was awesome. So I just knew I wanted to have Robert on the show. I got to tell you, one of the most common problems I see with real estate investors who start doing online marketing is that they don't have any back-end systems. Like, they don't have a follow-up system in place. They just don't have anything that's going to really help them monetize the leads that they're generating. So if that's you, or if you've got systems and you just need people to fulfill them, or you just think your business could run more efficiently, you are going to get a ton out of this conversation. So without any further ado, let's get into my conversation with Robert Nickell. All right. I'm here with Robert Nickell from Rocketstation. They are over at Rocketstation.com. Rob, thank you so much for being on the call, man.
Really excited to be here. I appreciate your time. Big fan of yours in the podcast. It's fun getting to know you.
Well, I'm a big fan of yours. I meant to call you Rob, and I called you Robert in the beginning. So we'll just split the difference. We'll call you one half the time, and the other one had the other half of the time.
I think you did say Rob. I think you're just...
Well, I said Robert the first time, and then I corrected. So now I'm just...
Okay.
It has to be 50-50.
All right. Well, there you go. Robert's my professional name. So we can, whatever you want to do.
So for those who aren't familiar, give us kind of like the 50,000 foot view of what Rocketstation is, because it's a company that I personally am using now. And like, you know, we've spoken before, and I find you guys like what you do, like really fascinating. So just give people kind of like the high level view of like, what is Rocketstation?
Yeah. So back before Rocketstation was invented, I was an investor and an agent, and hiring teams, managing teams, that was really hard. I found real estate pretty simple. I woke up in the morning relatively excited about certain things in my day, like closing deals and working with sellers and making things happen. But I was really, really frustrated by a couple things. One was I didn't have very good systems and processes in place. I could go make things happen, but I didn't have a lot of structure. And the second thing was, so I was like, a slave to my business, basically. I spent all my time working in my business, had no time to really work on my business, is why that was so painful. I went to bed every night pretty exhausted and kind of stressed about what I was going to do tomorrow because I never felt like I got enough done.
Yeah.
And the second thing was, being in that role of investing all of my own time in the day-to-day. It's pretty exhausting. So I tried bringing on some team members, and that was horrible. And I was obviously not good at hiring people, and all the processes I could find online and stuff. It didn't really work for me. So I went out looking for an easy button. I guess this is the real 50,000 foot. I wanted an easy button hiring. I wanted somebody to help me with the structure, help me find the right people, help me onboard and create accountability, and then let me create the outcomes which we're all looking for, because nobody wants to hire people. We just want to get more stuff done, or we want more productivity, or we want to get some of our time back, right? So I was looking for a solution where I could have an easy button as a real estate investor, as a real estate on the retail side too, as an agent. And it didn't really exist. There were some companies that made some big promises, but they didn't have what I was really looking for. So starting 2011, really more in 2012, and then full blown in 2013, we just have helped people in real estate get structured, build systems and processes, and then find the right people to fill whatever pain points people have in their business as the process you went through.
So I'm so curious because we met, we've kind of like been in each other's circles for a while, but we sort of met in person relatively recently. And obviously now you're sort of behind this company that specializes in systems and processes. And yeah, just like you mentioned, like I've gone through some of your guys' system as a client and like really seen it's incredibly well sort of designed system behind the scenes. Like everything runs very smoothly. Everybody I've interacted with at the company has been awesome and like super smart and super professional. And it's been a great process. So knowing you now, right, and seeing that, it's surprising to me to hear that like part of your issue in the beginning was that you didn't have systems. You didn't really know how to do that for yourself. So what was the process like for you all the way back in the beginning of like learning how to do that, like what you needed? How did you figure that stuff out for yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a learn first, implement. So I like to learn. I like to study enough to give me enough confidence to then go implement.
Yeah.
Because the real learning happens whenever you go do, right? In that implementation, it's like no matter how much you sit there and study and read Bigger Pockets, you never really quite get there if you don't go actually implement, right? So I just use learning as just enough to go implement. So as an implementer, I'm out just figuring it out. So that meant marketing. I could make the phone ring, but I was answering the phone and then running comps and then following up with sellers to set appointments where I needed to go, right? And then driving neighborhoods before appointments to get a feel for the comps in the neighborhoods and put my CMAs together. Then I'd go meet with the sellers and I'd come back to the car and have 15 missed calls that I would then try to figure out what I was going to do with while I was driving back to the next appointment, right? Or wherever I was going next, and driving all over the place. And I'm in Dallas, Fort Worth here, and traffic is terrible. So figuring all that out, and so I was just doing it, right? And then every evening I was going to some different title company party or something, social networking thing, to both meet title companies and kiss babies and shake hands and do all of those networking things to just be involved in the community of real estate here throughout the Metroplex. And so I was just kind of doing everything. So systems and processes, I had to become pretty tight with what I was doing, but that was like 3 to 4 transactions a month, Dan, is what I could get through. And I was busting my butt working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And I knew what I was doing. I was out there crushing it, right? Mm-hmm. But just like the sheer amount of work, you email a title company and they respond, hey, where's your articles of organization? And you want to give them the bird because it was in the first email, but you have to kindly respond with it attached. Here you go. Right. You want to say like, again, here you go again, but I don't. It's like, here you go. Like all that stuff takes so much time. So I had systems and processes, but it was just in my head.
Yeah.
Right. It was all upstairs. So then other people would, they would come into my office because I put ads on Craigslist, or I hired one of my best friends out of college for a little while. So people would come into the office, and the way I would train them was like, they would just sit next to me all day or get in the car with me.
Yeah.
And I would just like talk to them or show them or screen share or try to like record things, and just by osmosis, hope they would absorb the information. And then they would either kind of figure it out or not. And most of the time they didn't. It was such like a terrible process. I felt like it took more time to teach somebody to do the job than it did just to do it myself. So that's what I meant by no systems and processes. Like I knew what I was doing. I knew what it take to get the phone ring, right? I was doing a ton of direct mail and lots of other ways to do marketing. So I was doing all those things. I had systems and processes, in that I had schedules and I knew what I was doing. But having it all written down in a way that I could transfer that knowledge to somebody else, a repeatable process that someone else could go execute, no way, man. I was not even close. And so when I first started hiring people, that was the biggest roadblock. I didn't even know that. I didn't know that that's the foundation to success. And I think most people really miss that. Most people want, it's like, you want the outcome, right? So you want like a lead manager, or you want somebody to run comps, or you want whatever these outcomes are that people are looking for, right? So we just go look for that person. But strategy has to precede implementation. The same way with marketing, you have to really think about, hey, who am I going after? Who's my avatar? Who am I really trying to talk to? Is it everybody? Probably not, right? So you got to really have a strategy. That's in marketing, you think about it, you guys, that's what you do all day long, right? Dan, you and your clients is like, put this strategy together and then you go implement that. You don't start by just going, yeah, let's just go talk to people.
Yeah.
It's like, who's the right people, right? So that strategy that you got to go implement, that's what most people miss. They just jump right into, oh, somebody to do these 3 things. Well, what happens whenever the phone's not ringing and whatever, and it's Wednesday afternoon, it's 3:00.
Right.
And you're sitting there and you got to tell somebody what to do randomly. Like, that's horrible. Like, that's really, really painful.
Yeah. And I feel like too, you kind of hit on it where it's, the question is almost kind of not like, because people think of systems as like, do I know how to do it? Right. And they're like, I know how to write a comp or whatever. But if you ask someone to actually write it down, all of a sudden it's very different. And I think you kind of hit on that, where it's like you might have a system, but if you can't write it down or it isn't written down anywhere, it's just kind of in your head. You don't really have a system. You just have a feel for how you do something.
Yeah, it's like to be super cliche and cheesy about it. It's like the conversation we always have in public, and I do this at the mastermind we're a part of all the time. It's like we do this whole knowledge is what, and everybody's like power.
Right.
It's like knowledge is what? Power. It's like, well, is it? It's like what without the right kind of implementation and execution behind the knowledge, like the knowledge is just kind of, it's loaded powder. It's like dry powder. It's potential power, but it's not. Same way, that's all the stuff that's in your head, right? It's like you've got all this power up in your head, you've got all this knowledge, but you can't do anything with it. You can't transfer that to somebody else. Like, that's the hard part. And then writing it down, Dan, like, man, I call that brain damage. My team calls that execution, right? Like, that's why you went through that process with someone that wasn't me. You went through that with, I don't know how many of my team members you met, but probably several.
Yeah.
Because they're all experts in creating systems and processes and the maps that are the roadmap, the structure of your business, which sets the foundation for then, hey, let's go find a rock star to execute that. Right. So instead of looking for the rock star first, it's like, let's create the plan. And that's what all those team members did with you. Like, that plan is the foundation, right? That's your stability. That's everything. That's what makes you sleep good at night. That's what makes you feel good, is knowing you got the right plan in place.
Yeah.
And then putting the right team members in place to execute that plan. To me, that's the success formula. There's no easy button. There's no easy way, but to me, that's the process. That's the easiest way to get to the right outcome.
Well, it's like having a process is the easy way, right? You said, so your cliche was like knowledge is power. And I was like, that's true. But a very famous philosopher named G.I. Joe once said that knowing is only half the battle. So there you go. And just mash it together. It all works out.
Exactly.
Let me ask you a super nerdy question. I'm assuming that you guys have like systems and processes very well mapped out for your own business, right? You do this all the time. How do you, where do you write this down and store them? Is this like in a Google spreadsheet? Like, how do you physically maintain?
Yeah, great question. It's a super common question. We can do this a couple ways. I'll start with how we do it internally. So we have an internal LMS system, learning management system, where it's, just like membership sites that people are very familiar with. We have an internal membership sites for our team members with training videos where day one, they literally start right here, day one, right? And they work through new hire orientation and onboarding. And it's a combination of both live implementation and classes. The classes, like the online stuff, is mostly for, we've got lots of things to do for like HR and things like for corporate concern, right? So we do those things where they have to check the right boxes, and that's for your best interest, right? We're making sure that you and our client partners are protected, and we're taking all that labor liability away from you. So that process, it first starts with, like this online grind going through new hire orientation, which is just HR stuff that none of you guys want to go through. That's why we take it on.
Yes.
Right?
Nobody wants to do that.
No, but that's what you're asking me what we do. That's literally what we do is we put people through these online courses. Then once they go through all these online courses, then they come into live training for us personally. That's what they do. But implementing, like with your business, as you'll see, our team, and you're already going through this experience, our team is creating that training for you. And what that looks like for you is both written and videos. So you'll have every bit of these processes written out. It first starts in, either Glyphy or whatever program. I think they're using Glyphy to create the box charts that create the flows.
Okay.
Right. So the process step, the decision trees, where it's either like, for example, lead management, when leads come in, they're motivated, they're not interested, it's a dead, or it's basically an agent lead. There's only one of really 4 things that can really happen. So, but then with each one of those dispositions, you've got to move the lead to certain. So it's creating the boxes that connect. Okay, what happens if it's a warm lead? Okay, we need to set an appointment, and we're going to set the appointment with the acquisition manager, and it's going to be between 10 and 3, Tuesday through Friday, right? They'll make all those boxes connect. And then we actually write it out. So you'll see our teams actually write out step by step, www.matrix.com. What is the username and password? They'll actually do that.
Right.
And then as they're going through that process, they'll screen record themselves going through that whole process. So we have those 3 levels of training that our teams will then implement with your teams, right? So that's why they have that couple days of extra learning there. We just call that CTE, the same way the agents and brokers call their continuing education. They've got to get familiar with your systems and processes, right? Which is what they're doing right now, is really going through that last step of, they don't have to learn whatever CRM you're doing. They just have to learn the way you use it, right? They know object mapping. They know how to work through dispositions. They know what they're doing. They just don't know your business. So Greg and the team built that process with you up front, right? The systems, the boxes, writing it all out, creating the scopes, creating the videos. Now, Dan, next time you hire somebody in that role, it's like, now you get to pretend it's a lever or a knob that you're turning.
Right.
Because you've gone through it. You've created the systems and processes one time. It's all it really takes. But now those are living documents. So who do you think's responsible for updating all of your training, Dan, that's getting created for your team going forward? Are you going to have to go in there and update all of that stuff? Or is it going to be the person responsible for maintaining those tasks every day? Do you think they're going to be responsible for updating that training?
Right. It should be the person doing the task, right? The person closest to the task should update the document, right?
Right. When usernames and passwords change, who's responsible for just changing those line items on either the Excel sheet or the Word document that's either in Drive or Dropbox? Those are the 2 we primarily use. But, some of our clients are on AWS and other things. But we internally use an LMS system because we're hiring about 80 people a month right now. So we want to have a lot of structure to push people through to make sure there's nothing missed. And then we have a big facilitation team that's for 6 to 8 weeks, putting them through live scenarios and answering questions and doing all of that, and then creating that onboarding process that you've gone through. That's how we're matching the right people to the right seat, because we've got enough structure there in that program.
Want to find motivated seller leads online, but don't know where to start? Download our free 2019 Motivated Seller Keyword Report today. AdWords nerds have spent over $5 million this year researching the most profitable keywords for finding motivated seller leads. And you can grab these exact keywords when you download our report at www.adwordsnerds.com/keywords.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting for me kind of coming to Rocketstation from the outside. It was interesting, kind of like my perception of what it was going to be like versus what it was actually like, right? And I'm still in the middle of the process. But when I was first kind of told about Rocketstation, I was like, okay, you provide, VAs, you provide hiring services, right? But really, I think a huge part of the value add is helping us design a service. Like, we were developing a new role that I wanted to put someone in. And so when I got on the call with someone from the team, they weren't just like, tell us exactly what to do. they're like, well, have you thought about this? What about that? And we sort of like had this process where we were, started to design this whole new system with the team, and they were super, super helpful. And I think it's a huge value add, because I think a lot of people, we were talking about this before the call, but I think a lot of people have had an experience where, they went on some website, they hired someone to be a VA, and it just didn't work out because either they didn't have the systems in place, or they didn't have the right expectations, or they didn't hire someone that had the right qualifications, or whatever it is. So why don't you give me kind of like, both of us work with real estate investors. We both see a lot of people, I'm assuming kind of from across the spectrum, people who are like super high level investors, everything like dialed into a T. And then like the person is like, I just saw a free seminar about real estate investing, and I bought my next door neighbor's house for like 10 times higher than market value, or whatever. They're just starting out. What do you think are kind of like if you had to pick like one or two sort of applications for your service that really produce a lot of value for most people, like the kind of like most common pain points where Rocketstation can come in and kind of smooth that? What do you think that is for either of those, or for both of those kind of investors?
Yeah. So if we can just back up just a little bit. So
we can't back up.
we talked about how at a high level, when you're bringing on team members, what is really the point of that? What is really the purpose? Is it to do the task in the day-to-day, or is it to create some kind of outcome, right? And so real estate's a transactional business, which means we go through the same process over and over and over and over again. It's mostly a science, real estate is, with a little bit of art, with some nuance to it. And the better you are at kind of navigating the nuance, the better you'll be able to be in the business, right? But most of the process is the same thing over and over and over again. Running comps and putting CMA packets together in certain neighborhoods and certain markets is the same process over and over and over and over again, right? Mm-hmm. And so to me, it's the most common question we get is, hey, what can a virtual assistant do for me? Or what should I outsource first? And I want to say, hey, what would maximize your time? It's about utilization. It's about highest and best use of your time. Do you have any team members? What were they hired to do? And what is highest and best use of their time? So most of us, if you ask anybody, what do you do every day? And what's your job description? They're going to start naming 37 things, and they can write down 100 different things that they do all day. But if you look at where time is allocated, it's like people really don't have any idea where they're spending their time. They just know they get through the day. And it's the same thing with their team members. They just know they're getting through their day. So the first thing I like to do, and that's the process you've gone through with that discovery call, the purpose of that discovery call is to take a few steps back and say, hey, if you could run the business the way you really wanted it to go, right? If we take a step back and say, hey, if we built the business without compromise, what would that actually look like? Because your time is valuable. Your team members' time is valuable. So how do we maximize that? So if we took your time and we maximized it, whether it's through technology or other people's times, how could we either do more transactions, ultimately make more money, or with the same amount of money, if we could get our time back? I know a lot of people who they would love to make the exact same amount of money, but just work fewer hours. And if they could accomplish that, that would be a huge win. So the first thing is kind of look at where you are, what you have going on, what the real goal is. Is it transactions or is it efficiency? Because efficiency gets your time back, right? Efficiency is harder process to go through because you got to be willing to slow down and grind through it with Greg and our development team and those workforce management experts to really figure it out and clean up efficiencies, right? That's where you really get time back. But so for me, the first thing, it's utilization. So if you've got high paid team members, one of our vice presidents came from Colorado Springs with his family from Air Force Academy, and his front end he's very high paid W-2 employee. He is only responsible for highest and best use things. He doesn't manage his calendar. He doesn't respond to follow-up emails. He doesn't do the day-to-day stuff. He's got someone helping. He and his wife, they've got 2 kids, managing their crazy calendars and their taxi schedule, from all the events and things you do as a family and stuff. So it's about utilization. What's the highest and best use? It depends. For him, I got to take all the day-to-day monotony off his plate because that is hours and hours and hours of stuff that I'm not paying him to do. For other people, for example, acquisition managers, people who are paid to meet with sellers, Dan, and get deals, how many of us have them working leads, doing follow-up, actually doing some research online? They're responsible for lead management by being in the CRM, doing all of these things that's not meeting with sellers. Like, everybody calls me and they want more leads and they want to do marketing and they want to dump in on the front end because they want to do more deals. And I'm like, hey guys, if we slow down a little bit and we just capitalize on what's there better by leveraging the team members you already have, then chances are you can do more deals spending the same amount of money. Essentially, let's just capitalize on what's there. Right? Let's hire an inside salesperson, a lead manager, to follow up on all these leads that I know you think you're working good, but it's really top level work. And then we call a few hundred leads that are sitting in the CRM that haven't been updated in the last few months and generate a couple deals. It's hard for me to tell you there's anything more valuable than that. Right. So it really just depends on your business. It depends on where you are. It's about utilization, though. It's about finding those spots in your business that could really either allow you to do more deals or get some of your time back. And that was the purpose of that discovery call. And same way with you, you came in not looking as a real estate investor, but it's the same process. Like, we wanted to go and say, all right, what's the most efficient way to get you to your outcome? It's not always hiring more people. Sometimes it's leveraging technology. And if that's the case, we want to implement that first with you, because we're looking for highest and best use of what you've got going. This is about your business and your outcomes, right?
So let's think about, that's a really good segue, right? So to everybody listening, so I went through the development call that he's talking about, which is kind of like my initial call with the Rocketstation team. I did get a ton of value out of it, and I think it's really, really useful. So we talked a little bit before the call. You were saying that for people who are listening to the podcast, anybody can get on a 30 to 45-minute call with your development team. So what's the best way for them to do that if they want to jump on this? Because again, this is something that I went through like before we had the schedule purely as a client, and I got a ton out of it even before I decided to sign up with Rocketstation. So for people that are interested in that, how would they do that?
Yeah, so the discovery call, the purpose of it is really to lay the groundwork for the plan that would be executed, right? So it's really just creating structure to say, if we were to go execute a plan, if we were going to go implement, here's kind of the 30,000 overview, and then we would create next steps from there. Right. So anybody who's really serious about implementation and leveraging other people's time or curious how a VA could help them. Like, if your question's like, I get it. They're rambling about all this random stuff, but what could a VA do for me? Then you had in 30 or 45 minutes, these guys can create a custom plan for you and map out a big percentage of your business and also answer any questions you have about not just virtual team members, but utilizing the current team members that you have, right? So Greg Brooks is director of business development. He manages that whole team, and his email is Brooks, Brooks, at Rocketstation.com. So Greg Brooks at Rocketstation.com. They are literally systems and workforce manager experts, as you saw, and they can put a time study on, some of our larger clients, they'll get 1,200 calls a week, right? So we create time management studies for those people to show where and when their workforce should be distributed across the day, because they're not getting equal number of calls 24/7, right? So whether you're somebody that's massive in size or you've just got a few things going where all of your team members wear multiple hats, which is really where most people are, right? That's why that 30, 45-minute discovery call, that customized plan is so valuable, because we all operate a little bit differently. But Greg and the team, Brooks at Rocketstation.com, they can answer any questions people have.
Yeah. So, to everyone listening to this podcast, this is something I highly recommend that you do. It's like I said, I got a ton of value out of it. I went in, being honest, like not 100% sold on the whole idea of bringing someone additional onto the team, but the people at Rocketstation do a really good job. And I don't get, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not getting paid for saying this at all. I don't get a referral fee. I should, but I'm not. So, I would recommend that you go and do that. And they have a lot of cool stuff over at the website as well, just kind of like free information. You want to dig into it a little bit more. And I'm very excited about it in general. We've had a great experience. I'm really excited to get someone in and kind of working on that stuff. For the people that want to kind of follow you a little bit more, kind of want to know more about what you're doing, Rob, what's the best way to follow you online? Is it just rocketstation.com or do you use social media or anything like that?
Yeah, exactly. Rocketstation.com. We've got a pretty good Facebook page that I'm starting to upload some really good content on. So just hit us up on Facebook. You can also follow me personally on Facebook. But yeah, rocketstation.com is the best place to go. We're constantly going to be updating lots of great content there. The goal is to provide as much resources there as possible to give people enough confidence to take action, because we know that's what it's really all about.
Can I also say too, Rocketstation has some pretty sick swag. Every time I see you, you're like wearing some kind of cool, Rocketstation swag. Yeah, shirt on now. When I saw you at the mastermind, you were wearing like the bright yellow sneaks to like match the logo and everything. So I think there's something to be said for that too. It's that fashion sense, not super common in real estate investing. I don't know why that is. But Rob, thank you so much for being here, man. I really appreciate it. And you do something I think a lot of our listeners and clients could really benefit from. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing a little bit about what you do.
I really appreciate you, Dan. This means a lot to me that you'd spend the time and have me on. Super cool. You've been at this a long time. I started following you guys long before I was even doing VAs, because I started investing back in 2008. So awesome. You were one of the first ones putting out consistent blogs and doing something a little unique that wasn't so standard WordPressy dry, and you had a little bit different edge to what you guys had going on. So super cool. I appreciate you very much, man. This has been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. And I will, I'm sure you're going to be back on here soon. So we will talk again very soon.
Thanks a lot.
That is going to do it for this conversation with Rob Nickell from Rocketstation.com. Go check them out. And like you said, if you are interested in getting a discovery call from them, go ahead and email them. Now, I'm going to have links to their website as well as the email for you to get that discovery call over at AdWordsNerds.com/podcast. So just go to AdWordsNerds.com/podcast. You can find show notes for this episode and all our other episodes. And as always, if you are not a member of our free Facebook group at the REI Marketing Nerds Facebook group, I got to tell you, you got to get in there. It's an amazing resource. I'm in there every day posting high quality content. We have great real estate investors posting their tips and tricks. We constantly scan it for spam. We don't allow any low quality posts. It is one of the best places for real estate investors to hang out online. Again, that's the REI Marketing Nerds Facebook group. You can get there by going to AdWordsNerds.com/group. That's AdWordsNerds.com/group. I will talk to you guys next week. Have an awesome rest of your day, and cheers, everybody.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.